A lot of discussion about Martin Truex Jr.'s last race. Alexis will address that and a lot of other kind of final topics a little bit later on in the show. But he goes out this year, and it was not a great year for Martin Truex Jr., just being honest. Last year, in 23, he won 3 races. His average finish was 13.7. This year, 17.4, and no wins. Brad, you kind of piqued my interest last week when you were talking about the long non-winning streak. I'm trying to be positive here, not say losing streak. 18 races since a Joe Gibbs car has been in victory lane. And we'll get into the weeds on the numbers in a little bit. Is that just happenstance, or is there something systematic going on there?
I think a couple of things. That last win happened in New Hampshire Motor Speedway for Christopher Bell. And I do feel that in the second half of the season, Christopher Bell had opportunities to win, and they just didn't. For whatever reason, you can look at a lot of different things. In no way did I feel Ty Gibbs ever had an opportunity to win. Martin Truex Jr. might have had a couple, but they kind of gave them away multiple times. And Denny Hamlin, look, he had a great first half of the season and an awful second half of the season. I mean, they just regressed, it seemed, at a point where you should be hitting your stride, unfortunately.
Denny Hamlin last year, its average finish 12.4. This year, 13.9. Christopher Bell actually did not improve that much this year. He's 12.8 average finish last year, 12.9. And Ty Gibbs, almost the same, 18.4 in 23, 17.4 in the year that just passed. Both years, no wins. Kyle, have they sort of stalled out, or can you make numbers say anything you want?
Well, yeah, we can make numbers say anything we want, and in a lot of ways you can. But I say this, I think they're at a this year was a strange place for them to be. I said at the beginning of the year that Truex was not going to win a race because Jeff Gordon is the exception to so many rules, and he's the exception to that rule too. Anytime a driver says, this is my last year, they don't win because that little bit of edge has gone away. That little bit of something. You just step back. You take a step back, and you're not totally in the game. Even though you tell yourself you are, even though you keep trying to convince yourself when you stand in front of the mirror, Truex was just not in the game. And I will go to my grave saying that because there's a million people that will back that up. Denny Hamlin's in a lawsuit with NASCAR. His brain's totally somewhere else. Okay, so let's just be honest about that. The 54 of Ty Gibbs, he's just learning. He's still learning that craft. He has moments during every race where you think, it's here. But you got to put that whole race together. We've seen it with so many young drivers that come in. They have those moments. They run up front, but they've got to put a whole race together. And I still say, and I'm just going to go throw it out there, that Christopher Bell is probably has a ton of talent, but show me you can close a race. Show me you can do something besides in stage 1 and stage 2. We saw him in stage 1 and stage 2 yesterday, and then he's not there in stage 3. And that's his MO. And as the competition ramped up the second half of the year, and these guys are trying to get that win and get those stage points and do that stuff, that team, driver-wise, I don't think equipment-wise, but driver-wise, I think that team just fell apart.
I can't say anything more than that. I mean, I think that was eloquently said about every single piece of that puzzle. I mean, obviously there are things too with, just the ebbs and flow of a season. We talked about it in the break about, peaks and valleys. They unfortunately seem to have a few more valleys than they had peaks this season. Everything is cyclical. We say that all the time. I think by no means are we going to be saying, a lot of these things potentially about Joe Gibbs Racing next season. But they need to figure out how to have more peaks than valleys, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I well put, and I see some trends here that if I'm a fan of Joe Gibbs, I don't like. Your old war horse, and I mean that as a term of endearment, just retired.
That's right.
Truex is out.
A leader,
a respected leader.
The only champion you had.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Great
because
point.
Kyle Busch is already, he left the building a couple of years ago, so he's out. Truex is now out. So your standard bearer now is Denny Hamlin. I don't
who's
know.
angry at everyone.
Yeah, who's
everyone. Yeah.
And is too busy. We've said this on the show over and over again. Denny Hamlin cannot be laser focused on winning races.
Yeah.
He's got a race team that is suing NASCAR. That's enough right there. Oh, wait. Every race I come home and I do an hour-long podcast.
Yeah.
Got to do that. Oh, I'm a dad and I'm also a husband, and I got to take care of that.
Yeah.
And I'm a driver. I'm supposed to show up and drive on Sundays.
It's a lot to say
So,
grace over,
I don't-
as Doug likes to say.
So to put two classic movies together, he is Sybil and 12 Angry Men all in one person.
Oh my gosh, that's the promo for the year right there. Thank you, Kyle.
He is. But he thinks he's Superman. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of Krypton out there. I admire Denny's driving style. I even like some of his moxie.
Yeah.
But if
For sure.
if that's your lead sled dog, Joe Gibbs, you got a problem.
Yeah.
I think he may be supplanted by Christopher Bell.
Yes. Eventually he and I think that's what Gibbs and those guys with Christopher Bell, I think that was the plan.
Yeah.
Just like when we saw the Hendrick organization a number of years skew to a number of all young drivers. Everybody was under 26 or 27, it seemed like. That you have to, at some point in time, a sports organization has to cut the ties with what brought them there and start all over to reestablish themselves as that powerhouse.
Well, I'd always been Team Denny as a performance level. Guys, I know this will shock you. Brad.
Denny will never win another race, according to Doug. This is what's about to
It's
come out of
done.
his mouth.
It's over. Sorry, Denny. You had a good run. Sorry you
Career's
didn't win a
ended.
title. Hate that for you. But, that's how it goes. You got three
I love
Daytona
it.
500 trophies. That's a pretty good consolation
Will
prize.
Christopher Bell win a championship before Denny Hamlin does?
Well, yeah,
Well, that's a great question.
because Denny Hamlin's not going to win a championship.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Kyle?
the results speak for
Did
themselves.
she just
Yeah.
check you into the boards, Kyle?
Well, thanks, and this is my last PRN show. Thank you very much. But I believe that too.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys on. I'm with Brad on this. I just don't think he has had the opportunity so many times when he was the superior car with the superior driver, and in the situation, and has, for whatever reason, mechanically, mentally, the way things play out, just squandered those opportunities.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was the same thing that we could have said about Justin Allgaier too before 2 days ago.
Yeah, and no, and
he,
you're right.
And he made his way into
Yeah.
to a championship, winning scenario. So I'm not saying it can't happen in that particular question. I do think Christopher Bell will most likely be a champion
But I
before
think
Denny.
I think the thing with Denny too, and this day and time in the sport, we're tapping on that age limit thing.
That's true.
We're tapping on, we're knocking on that door right now. You know what I mean? And we've seen
TikTok.
We've seen that fall off with Truex, with Kevin Harvick. We see that fall there. We get to a place, and it's not a fall off; it's a cliff.
Yeah.
It appears to be a cliff.
It is a cliff.
Yeah, it's a cliff.
When it stops,
and
it
listen,
stops.
and that's skewed down because in my time in the sport, I saw it with David Pearson and Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty and all those greats where they ran to a point, Darrell Waltrip, and they got to a point, and it's just a fall off. And you still believe you can do it, but there's these kids knocking on the door that are 18 and 19 years old that are getting it done.